Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. This is Nakie and this is Cook with Nakie. I hope everybody is doing well. If you're new to my channel, I want to say thank you so much for stopping by, and to my old subscribers, I want to say thank you so much for your continuous love and support. On today's menu, we are making homemade tomato paste. Yes, homemade. Let's get started. For our ingredients, we have our fresh tomatoes. I took out the seed from it. Make sure you take out the seeds. I'm also using red bell pepper. This is optional. This gives me the sweetness in tomato paste and also brings out the color. So if you don't like red bell peppers, you could omit that. I'm gonna start by boiling my tomatoes and red bell peppers together. I'm also gonna add just a little bit of water to it. I added just about half cup of water. I didn't add too much water because the tomatoes has its own juice and it's going to bring out its own juice when it starts to boil. So you don't want to add too much water because at the end of the day we're going to throw the water away. And look at all the water that I'm talking about. So you don't want to add a lot because that tomatoes has a lot of juice in it. And our tomatoes are done. See how the skin comes off? Yeah, that shows that our tomatoes is done. At this point, I'm just going to strain the tomatoes and the red bell peppers, and I'm going to blend this. So the reason why I like to strain this before I blend it is because I just want to reduce the water content in the tomatoes. So I blended my tomatoes now, and I'm gonna cook this for about 30 minutes on low heat. You probably want to cook it on low heat because when you cook it on high heat, it starts to splash on you. So I prefer cooking on low heat. So I'm going to add citric acid to the tomatoes. You know how tomato paste has a little bit of sourness to it. It's because they add citric acid to it to give it that sourness. So I'm trying to do that exactly with my tomato paste. So I added about half teaspoon. If you want more sourness, you could add more, but I think half teaspoon was enough for me. So my tomatoes has been cooking for about 15 minutes now. And you see all that foam on top? Yeah, we're gonna cook it till there's no more on top. Also make sure you stir your tomatoes to prevent it from burning or stick it under the pot. So in about 30 to 40 minutes later, this is how it looks. See, it still has some water in it, but don't worry about it. I'm going to show you the next step to getting your perfect tomato paste. So at this point, I'm adding a little bit of oil in the baking pan, and we're going to be baking our tomatoes. Yes, we're going to be baking it. When you bake your tomatoes this way, it gives it that thickness, and it gives it a good consistency of a tomato paste. You could choose to cook it on the stove, but I like to bake it after I get this consistency. And the reason I added the oil is to prevent it from sticking to the baking tray. So I'm going to bake this in a 300 degrees oven for about 15 minutes. In about 15 minutes, this is how our tomato paste is looking. It looks good, but still has some moisture in it. And tomato paste, as you know, doesn't have a lot of moisture in it. So I'm going to thicken this by adding a little bit of cornstarch to it. If you don't like the cornstarch, you could just leave it and put it in the oven for more time. So this was 1 teaspoon of cornstarch. I added a little bit of water and make sure it's well mixed. So I added about 3 tablespoons of cornstarch to the tomatoes. Make sure when you add the cornstarch to it, you mix it well because you want to make sure the cornstarch is not sitting at one place. So make sure you give this a good stir. So after adding the cornstarch to it, I'm going to put this back in the oven for additional 10 minutes and our tomato paste will be done. And after 30 minutes, look at our tomato paste. It is thick, it has a good consistency, exactly like tomato paste. And that is how I make my homemade tomato paste. And look at that consistency. Look at how that sticks on the spoon, exactly like the store-bought tomato paste. And it has that sweetness to it because of the red bell peppers, and it has that sourness because of the citric acid, exactly like tomato paste. It tastes even better. And you can make this with just two major ingredients. That's it, tomatoes and red bell peppers. So at this point, this is how I'm going to store my tomato paste since I'm not using all of it at once. I'm putting this in an ice cream tray and a sandwich bag, and it's gonna go straight into the freezer. So anytime I'm ready, I just take one or two and I'll be good to go. You could also save this in your refrigerator. Get a mason jar, put your tomato paste in it and a little bit of olive oil or any oil of your choice, and you should be good. I used this tomato paste in a stew that I made. I'm gonna bring that recipe to you very soon. That stew was so good. I love the taste of the tomatoes. I feel like you could just use this to make like a jollof rice or any stew, even if you don't have regular tomatoes to add to it. It was so good. So at this point, my tomato paste are ready. I'm gonna cover this with a cling film and I'm gonna put this in the freezer. Our tomato paste is frozen now. I'm gonna take them out from the tray and put them in a ziploc bag, and I'm gonna store them back in the freezer. As you can see, I used some of the ones in the sandwich bag, and I'm gonna bring that recipe to you soon. Alright guys, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you're gonna give this a try, and I know you're gonna love it. Please subscribe to my channel if you haven't. Like, share, and comment. Until I come your way next time, this is Cook with Nakie. Be good to yourself, be good to everybody. It goes a long way.